Hi, it's Jeff here. Thanks for checking out another one of these video lessons, and I've got something a bit different for you today. I'm joined by my good friend and double bass maker, whose instruments are world class. They're absolutely exceptionally made and sound terrific as well. He's also a renowned repairer and restorer of double basses with over 40 years of experience of working with stringed instruments, and he specialises in the double bass. So I'd like to welcome Martyn Bailey. So thanks for joining me today, Martyn.
It's a pleasure to see you, Jeff. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, today I'm going to be talking to Martyn about double basses and about how we can get the best out of our instruments and what we should be looking for in terms of setup and when we're purchasing a bass as well.
Its condition. It is central. It is central to the instrument's value and how much any prospective buyer will need to spend on it.
Yeah.
Sooner or later. Cracks around here.
Yeah.
Cracks at the side of the bass bar, top and bottom.
Mm.
They are the more expensive areas to fix.
So cracks on the ribs wouldn't be as much of a, they wouldn't be great, but you would be, less concerned.
Less
perhaps.
concerned.
If you had a bass that had a neck break at some point in the past, is that something that would stop you from maybe thinking about buying the bass?
Depending on the value of the instrument, yes, because the standard accepted repair for broken necks is a neck graft, and that's an expensive item. It's very important for comfort and health to pick a bass that is not excessively large for you. Think of a bass as the same as buying trousers and shoes, something that fits.
Yeah, okay.
Something centred around about 41.5, 42 inches. In new money, 105.5 centimetres.
What would you consider to be too large? Because anything above 42.5 or something?
I think
it's getting to the point where we're...
If you've got very big hands,
yeah,
that is not too bad. But the problem is, as string length goes up, so does the tension.
Yes, I hadn't thought about that actually before. That's an important point. And what about the minimum string length? What is it? What are you kind of... If someone bought a bass to you that had a string length of 40 inches, that would be reasonable, maybe? Getting towards the low side there?
It's getting towards the low side for a 3/4 instrument.
And you consider 3/4 to be the standard size instrument
yes,
for most people?
Absolutely. I don't believe really there's much correlation between the size of instruments and the sound they produce. I've known little basses that sound wonderful,
yeah,
and big basses that sound pathetic.
I've had exactly the same experience.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
It's a question of quality. If you have an old instrument that's in very good condition, it will probably sound very well. But as the condition of instruments deteriorates, so does the sound, in my opinion.
Yes.
They become less distinct, more inclined to wolf notes.
Yes.
And just generally muffled.
You lose the clarity.
You lose the clarity.
And the articulation that you want in this.
And the projection. New instruments, if you find a new instrument that doesn't work, do not be conned into thinking it will get better. You have to start off good to begin with.
Do you think there's a break-in period for a new instrument?
I'm told by people who have had my basses that they get better.
Oh, good.
I'm glad to hear it's better and not worse.
Yes, excellent.
However, I think there's a number of other factors going on. That the player is becoming used to the instrument. The strings are playing in, because if you have a new instrument, the strings will be new. And
yes.
Everybody knows that strings do take a little time. And then, of course, the suitability of a bow, if a bow is being used.
Yeah, that's absolutely another factor as well, yeah.
You've got the instrument, the bow, the strings and the player.
So there's a lot going on there.
There's
in that
a lot
mix.
going on in those initial few weeks. But, as I said, don't be conned into thinking that a new instrument that doesn't work very well when new will improve. The differences are subtle.
Yeah.
And I have a client who has one of each. And initially he thought he'd use the carve back for solo work, flat back for orchestral. It's sorted itself out to the opposite way round.
Right, okay.
And he's just happy with the way that the flat back works in chamber music, small ensembles, and the carve back's got the real grunt to come through in the section.
So when you're assessing a new, well, if you saw a new bass now that it comes into your workshop, you don't necessarily think it's better because it's carved. It's just different. Is that basically what you're saying?
I don't have any value judgment in that respect. I don't think better or worse. They're just different.
Do you find that the construction, the way they hold up over time? I mean, an older carved back, would this tend to hold up better than a flat back?
I think generally that carved back basses are more robust, especially when it comes to adverse humidity, i.e. too low humidity. They survive better. I need to have some idea what the bass is going to be used for.
Okay.
It's not the be-all and the end-all, but it does help in order to get the bass, the instrument, to the requirements of the player. Now, multi-genre players have a different consideration. They will need bow clearances, where anybody that predominantly just plays pizzicato, it would be less important. So, the consequence of that the curvature of the fingerboard should be impeccable. It should be a match with the curvature of the bridge.
Okay.
They shouldn't be the same height, but the string height should be progressively higher from the top down to the bottom of the instrument. Fingerboards, they need to have enough hollow from top to bottom.
And what do you mean by that, Martyn, hollow?
The fingerboard is slightly concave in its length, only by about 1.5 millimetres, 2 millimetres. Achieving that will achieve a cleaner sound.
Okay.
All fretted instruments are so adjusted, and that's the function of the truss rod.
Yeah,
in
sure.
a guitar neck.
Sure.
But in double basses, we plane that hollow into the fingerboard, not rely on a truss rod to bend the neck.
How about the nut? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was thinking about the nut height. I think is something that sometimes people miss. And what do you go for in terms of of the clearance at the nut over the top of the neck there?
Assuming the strings are in decent condition, and the fingerboard is, you only need a minimum amount of clearance at that point.
Right.
But again, it comes back to personal preference. Some people choose to feel or wish to feel more resistance, especially in the half position, than others. Okay. Some people want to feel none, and other people just want to feel a bit more. Again, it comes down to personal preference, but from a mechanical point of view, it doesn't have to be anything more than a clearance.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Martyn. It's been great to speak to you and learn more about your instruments and your machine heads, your tuners. Where can people go online to see some pictures and learn more about what you do?
On my website, there's a fair amount of content, as I think you know.
Yes.
But any further information can be found at www.mjbl.co.uk.
Great. Well, thanks very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.
Thank you.